A diplomat has told CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan that Hamas has released 2 American hostages. CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini joins us now from the White House. Christina, I understand you have some new details for us. What can you tell us?
Just breaking as we're coming on the air, we've gotten confirmation from the Israelis, officially from the Prime Minister's office. We have the 2 names. It's Judith Raanan and Natalie Shoshana Raanan. Were released from the hands of the terrorist organization Hamas. It says they were kidnapped during that terrorist attack on 07/10/23. It also says they were taken to the border of the Gaza Strip. At this moment, they are on their way to a meeting point at a military base in the center of the country. I'm assuming that's the center of the country of Israel, where their family members are waiting for them. The government of Israel, the IDF, and the entire security establishment, the statement says, will continue to operate with the best of their abilities and efforts in order to locate all of the missing and return all of the abductees home. And at this point, that number is still 11 Americans missing in the area or unaccounted for. And it's very unclear where they are, what the status of those Americans are. But look, this is a small bit of good news in what has been a very, very ugly, horrible news cycle. I've talked to some foreign diplomatic sources. Everybody is hopeful that this is one of many. These negotiations are ongoing. And as Margaret mentioned, you know, this is not just a negotiation being done by U.S. officials, but Arab officials throughout the region, including in Doha, where Hamas has a political office. And although that may sound strange, that was set up with the blessing of the United States and other allies so that there would be a way to contact this group officially through diplomatic channels. And we've seen these negotiations kind of go through Doha before, and it's likely that that's how this happened this time around as well.
And so as we wait for more details on how this process is going to unfold now and how the process unfolded to get just to this point, Christina, I wonder if you can fill in some sort of pieces of the puzzle here. With respect to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, what do we know about his travels to the region leading up to this particular moment?
I mean, I think he was in 7 countries in 4 days. Anybody who's been on one of those planes knows how aggressively you can travel when you don't have to go through TSA. But in this case, they really pushed the envelope because he was basically ping-ponging around the region, trying to talk with Arab allies for a variety of reasons, including organizing aid and other things, and trying to essentially keep the lid on this conflict, keep it from spreading, because this is an issue that cuts deep to the populations of many of these countries, as you've seen protests throughout the region. And that's expected to continue this weekend, I'm told, by several U.S. officials who are concerned, not overly concerned, but are keeping an eye on the security situation around U.S. embassies in the region. Secretary Blinken had a lot on his plate, and the president had a lot on his plate when they went over. Obviously, when the president went over, the original intention was to meet with Mahmoud Abbas and the King of Jordan and have an Arab component to that trip, and that was canceled because as the president was on his way literally out the door, we had that hospital attack in Gaza. Now it's still unclear who exactly was at fault for that, but in that moment, the optics were just untenable for those Arab leaders, and they had to pull out of the last part of that summit. But you can bet that Americans on that trip were working on these negotiations, and you can be assured that that was one of the main things Secretary Blinken was working on while he was visiting all those leaders throughout the region.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about as well, Christina, is what we've been hearing from the Israelis about the potential for a ground invasion. Major talked about this with Margaret a moment ago. It seems to me that we've been hearing about that possibility for quite a number of days now. And with this development, one has to wonder if there was sort of an accelerated pace, obviously, given the delicate negotiations, with the potential of a ground invasion, you know, looming in the near term here. What is the latest that we know on that front? Has there been sort of official or even background conversations about the timing of a potential invasion?
We don't really know. There are assumptions, but there's nothing that I would feel comfortable reporting other than there were rumors that this would happen last week at about this time. It did not. There were rumors it would happen earlier in the week, and it did not. Obviously, everyone assumed it would not happen while President Biden was on the ground. President Biden has left, and so everyone has essentially been holding their breaths, waiting for what the Israelis have said would be an unprecedented military action in Gaza to root out Hamas. Now, it's unclear how the release of these hostages plays into that, if it factors into that at all. It could be a goodwill gesture on behalf of Hamas. It could be that they were promised something that we don't know yet. You know, we don't have a lot of visibility into these negotiations, and honestly, we're probably not going to get it. And that's because there are still other hostages to be negotiated for. Officials I've been talking to this afternoon have been very circumspect with what they'll say, even off the record, because they don't want to put someone's life at risk by giving information that could antagonize somebody holding them, or that could blow up negotiations, or that could make it impossible to get more of these people out. Now, obviously, that's going to be increasingly difficult if there is a massive Israeli military operation in the area for all the obvious reasons you can come up with. But at this point, we're not quite sure if the two are linked or if they will impact one another going forward.
Yeah, incredibly delicate, sensitive negotiations, as you point out. Christina Ruffini with the latest on what we do know. Christina, thank you so much.
Thank you.